All right, we are live with Linda on this. Well, I don't know wherever you're at. It's raining here in Calgary, so we're getting some moisture, which is not a bad thing. Linda, we've got a good crowd here this morning, and it looks like with this rain, people are staying in, having coffee. You just finished breakfast probably before they decide to go out and fare the weather out there. So today's topic is going to be never well since. Now, we've all heard the term long haul from this COVID. Has this term that they use called long haul syndrome. And my understanding, Linda, is that prior to COVID and this long haul syndrome, it was actually never well since was the term that was used. And can you kind of elaborate on that? What does that mean, never well since?
Never well since. Yeah, that's a common thing I hear in my office when people come in to describe whatever health issue they've been dealing with, and they give me all the symptoms, and then the key symptom that they give is they associate it to a specific time in their past. So when some event had happened and they, for instance, someone maybe passed away and they developed pneumonia, and ever since then, they've always had a chronic lung condition or a cough. But it was that specific point in time that they're associating this cough to. And it could be numerous things. Yeah. So tying into COVID, long haul indicates to me too, when I'm speaking with my people that are still feeling the after effects of a COVID infection, is that it's typical of a lot of viruses. That's why I thought, well, I'm going to talk about never well since, because viruses tend to go dormant. What's another example of a virus that goes dormant?
I don't know what's
Well,
that.
cold sores.
Oh,
Cold
right.
sores,
Yeah, yeah. And I've had those. Yeah. So I've had cold sores, and typically for me, when my immune system gets down, then I usually get a cold sore. So if I'm working long hours, not eating properly, that sort of stuff, that's typically when I personally get a cold sore.
right. And that's so cute that you say that your immune system gets down when it's actually you that gets
Ah,
down.
okay, okay.
Right? There's a number of factors that are coming into play, and it could be a repeat of old factors. So people will often associate it to the sun or the weather and so on. And it isn't necessarily the weather. A change in weather can be one more thing that's added to your stress pile, but it's not because there's a barometric change. It's not because you were exposed to the sun. It's also a combination of other things that you're experiencing at the same time. Because if it was the sun, then why isn't everybody getting a cold sore? And why isn't, you know, if it's a barometric change, why isn't everybody getting a migraine? It's only some people because it's their tipping point,
Right,
for
right.
instance. So, but going back to the never well since, I mean, viruses will cycle around. So as you feel better, then you are able to better cope with the symptoms that viruses seem to impart on your particular system. So whether it's even blood sugar control, or it's a cough or heartburn or aches and pains that come back, it's because there's been a dip in your energy.
So does that mean then if I have this never well since or long haul syndrome, whatever you want to call it, if I've got that, does that mean I still have whatever I originally had, and it's just kind of goes dormant, comes back, and do you never get rid of that?
I I'd like to say you do get rid of it, as in we don't like to use the word cure,
Hmm.
because once your system's been aligned in a certain way because of a crash in your energy or even your perspective, like emotionally, psychologically, you can set yourself up to then repeat again. So, are these things ever gone? No, I think they're always around us, and it's just whether we are succumbing to the circumstances. So, we're not going back to poor eating habits, not sleeping well. That's why in my newsletter I referred to in my blog, I said an essential part of getting better from a never well since or a long-term problem is it's essential to change some lifestyle factors. Yeah.
Okay. So what would that mean? Change lifestyle factors. What does that actually mean?
So we tend to group lifestyle things like getting enough rest. So what's our sleeping pattern? Um, Acknowledging that we eat too many carbs, or we're overeating, or not exercising enough and having enough circulation in our body so our system can circulate and filter. Yeah, so those are lifestyle factors. It can
Okay.
also be checking in with, well, how much am I complaining these days? Am I feeling like a victim all the time? And why can't I shift my perspective to see the positive in something?
Right, right. So, and I should mention to those who are online for this live stream, if you have any questions for Linda as we're going through, please post them up, and we'll get Linda to answer them as we're going through. So don't be shy. You've got some questions about, never well since or Longhaul syndrome or any of these things. Please ask your questions. We're happy to answer them. So, kind of going back a little bit, what kind of cases have you seen of this never well since? What kind of things have you, in your practice, have actually seen and had to deal with and treat?
Yeah, it's as unique as everybody. So it depends on one's circumstances, but you boil it down to the emotion involved. So, for instance, a lot of bladder infections are attributed to being pissed off. So the term
Really?
the term pissed off kind of takes it all in. What's the emotion we're feeling when we're pissed off? Angry. So what are we angry about? What did we lose control of? What do we feel frustrated about? And I would say 90% of my bladder infection people, particularly chronic ones, well, even short term ones, like an acute, people can say, I hardly ever get a bladder infection, but boy, did I ever get one when my son did X, Y, Z. Or my daughter came home and told me this. Yeah, quite
Yeah.
amazing. Though that's a common one.
So this never well since doesn't necessarily then mean that it's contributed to or a cause of some sort of viral or bacterial thing. It could be an emotional thing, is what you're saying. If I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. It can be both. You can have a predisposition to virus or bacteria, or even a fungal infection that seems to recur when this happens. So, is it because of that infection, or is it because of circumstances and the emotion? So, it can go either way. And that's why mentioning it to the practitioner helps me ascertain, well, I guess if it's on the mental emotional circumstance, we have to calm the nervous system down.
Right.
If it's strictly an infection, what do we do to have to boost your system so that you're not liable to get the infection, or help your body overcome the infection?
So I guess
Yeah.
it's kind of like if you don't treat both, like say you treat the physical part of it without the mental, it just becomes a cycle. You just end up coming back. Am I correct in that hypothesis?
Yeah, it could be it could be the missing piece as to
Ah,
why it keeps coming back.
right,
And that's for the person to explore and notice um, why this has come. And sometimes we just, it isn't brought to our attention. Medical doctors are not trained to be psychologists, and they don't associate the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual spectrum when they are assessing symptoms. That's not their job. They weren't trained to do it that way.
right,
And so sometimes they will miss that component to the person's health picture. And
right.
it's important.
Ah, cool. That's really interesting because there's a lot of I think there's a lot of people go through COVID now. There's a lot of people who are depressed, they're angry, a lot of emotions spurring up, and I'm sure that have you seen a rise in people having issues where because of not because of getting COVID, but just because of the experience of going through it. Have you noticed some of that from the mental side of that, or the?
Oh, most definitely. There's a range, and we probably could do a program just on the stress levels that have been created on account of us not having a predictability to our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Things are always changing, so that can itself can be very frustrating and creating the whole thing of even post-traumatic stress, like because of change in business or financials or your job. Then there's the anxiety of having to do whatever that might be, wearing masks, not being able to visit, and depression. It's the longing for what could have been.
Right.
So
Right.
it's been a big chunk of time for people.
Do you
So yeah.
find do you find so I want to kind of get into the treatment part of this in a second here, but do you find that um, practitioners like yourself, um, you have some clients, I'm assuming, that are regulars. They're totally into the preventative measures of their personal health, and then you've got those who only come in when there's some sort of major thing. It's got to the point where they can't stand it anymore, and they've come in. Um, do you find that more and more people are wanting to get into the preventative and try to have a better balanced life, and treating some of these long haul or never well since symptoms? I hope I'm framing this right. It's just that I know for a lot of people, I'll give you a really good example. I had a business associate in Toronto, was talking to him yesterday, and his wife was in the hospital, just had surgery. What happened was they were going out shopping. She had her leg ached for whatever reason, and she didn't know why. Now, him and I were talking about this. Him and I would have said, "Oh yeah, we'll just walk it off. Whatever it is," and we would have just never thought any more of it. Well, she decided to go into the hospital just to get it checked, and it was a blood clot. And if she would have left it something like another couple of hours, they would have had to amputate her leg. And
Wow.
I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm one of those guys who would have said, oh yeah, I'll just put it off. And it's kind of when I thought about that, I thought, well, this is kind of a metaphor for anybody that needs, medical attention, whether it's preventative or whether it's an emergency type thing. But it kind of shocked me a bit. It actually threw me off that something that could go that wrong that quick. And he said the doctor told it could have been, that would have been the best case scenario, was amputate her leg. I mean, they got it in time where they didn't have to. They did surgery. They got her under I think it was a 12-hour buffer. They got it under that, but she may lose some feeling in that. But if they would have left it any longer, she could have lost a leg. And any longer than that, could have went to her brain and died. So
That's
you
a big
don't think
spectrum.
about these things until you hear it. And it's kind of those things that, if I don't see it, it's not bothering me. But is that an issue for people waiting too long or putting it off, seeking medical attention?
Well, and not to laugh at those circumstances, but it's sort of, that's an extreme situation, Gary. Like, I don't know.
It is, and it is. But I brought it up because I know that there are people that, they don't do anything. And I'm one of
Yeah.
them. I've done that myself, where you kind of put it off, and then things get worse. And it's like, crap, if I would have just dealt with it up here or got it when it was nipped it in the bud, it wouldn't have been so bad down here, right? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's, it hopefully she was, it could have been a very sudden thing that came out of the blue. I
Yeah,
mean, there's nothing you can really do about that.
yeah.
And I'm sure she was experiencing enough pain that it shocked her. And that's what, got her into the right care. But if it's symptoms that seem to be niggling in the background all the time, of course, you tend to keep hoping that it's going to go away. I mean, I'm not the only practitioner, chiropractors, massage therapists, physiotherapists will also tell you the same thing, that, people tend to put things off until it can't get any better on its own. So they need some help. So yeah, we're a bit of a quick fix bunch. I think that kind of bounces into that. We don't want to look after ourselves preventatively. We sort of wait and see, is another good statement that drives me crazy, that people get offered that quite a bit too. Well, let's just wait and see. But there's actually a huge window of opportunity to work on things. It's just you're not using conventional medicine or pharmaceuticals or surgery to deal with things. There's sort of a gap time, and that's where I call naturopathic medicines, vitamins, supplements, diet change, homeopathy, botanical medicine, acupuncture, all those things fit in that window of slide, as I call it, until it is an emergency. Yeah. Right. And then we do move on to, addressing it in that way. The interesting thing about the old healers with the never well since scenarios, like never well since a divorce, a particular cruise or vacation where you got Montezuma's revenge and your gut has never felt right since that point in time, or on that emotional level, you've got empty nest syndrome or whatever it is humming away in the background that actually is causing someone emotional grief. So the old healers used to describe it as a break in the auric field. So that would be like the halo painted in spiritual paintings. There would be an actual break in the luminous energy field around our bodies that we can, that we're all aware of more so now, and it needs to be healed. And that would be in the psycho-emotional level. So the grief has to be healed, the anger, suppressed anger, doubt, confidence. Those are the big emotions that can be healed through using homeopathy. And here's my little Bible here that I like to resource when I'm looking at possible remedies to help a long-term emotional break in the auric field. Besides good support on, therapy is possible to help, and just an understanding of perspective. So people have to learn and change maybe their perspective of what actually happened so that they can move forward and then they overcome it. For myself, I used to always have laryngitis every November. I think I had 7 years of that, Gary. And for a week, at the end of November, and I finally figured it out. It was because I just got so busy at work, plus there was Christmas preparations starting to happen, and I went into huge overwhelm, and I just didn't have the capacity to deal with it all. So I had to start shifting my preparation for Christmas way back, to the beginning of November, so that I didn't have such a loaded plate. People would start taking advantage of their benefit packages at that time of year. And it was just like, my God. And then I couldn't speak. It wasn't a viral problem. It was just a weakness in that I couldn't do my work anymore. Yeah, it's quite crazy.
Well, let's talk about treatment and let's just, never well since. So there's a lot of things that can contribute to that. Let's talk about COVID, because we've heard this Longhaul Syndrome. You've been treating me because last September, not this last September, a year ago September, I was laid out flat. So I went in and got a COVID test. It came back negative. That was just on the onset of getting sick. And then I got really sick. I thought this was, I've never had anything like this in my life. So I didn't go back. I should have gone back for a second test because I'm sure that I've had it. And you agree, because you even said that, I think you actually had COVID. So now I have this, I get these chills all the time. And I would contribute that to whatever happened, whether it was or wasn't, because I don't have a confirmation. But So a year ago, it's been just over a year now, and I still get chills and stuff like that. So people who have this long haul syndrome or never well since they've had COVID or something, what do you do to treat somebody like that? Because I know the medical industry, I've heard it on there. Well, there's people that are trying to help, but they don't really. I don't think they're really doing a lot. And some people are worse than I am. I've just got the chills. That's not bad, but others have had way more serious effects from whatever it is. What would you? How would you approach something like that?
Yeah. Well, of course, always getting more detail is important. Um, so, when did the chills come? And do you notice any kind of cycle to those? Because then that would help me decide whether this is now a reset problem of the thermostat that when we want to bring a fever on and activate our immune cells, there's something gone awry with that. And how can we and what can we do to reset your thermostat, so to speak?
Right.
And for that particular symptom. But clearly, there's still some after effect going on with potentially a virus that's still sitting there
Mm.
and challenging your immune cells. And that's the repercussion, is you noticing these other symptoms. So we'd also find out how much fatigue there is, if there's any nausea, and and then base it on that. And then just treat it like, okay, we need to increase the capacity of the body to move past that dip in available energy to overcome the uh, effects of the virus. So, what can we do to elevate the immune system? So, we know that, zinc helps. We know that NAC can help with bronchial problems. Is that the focus? How much vitamin C is the person taking? What's their vitamin D levels? Are they also at cardiovascular risk? Then I have to watch K2, um, and just go through a whole sort of plethora of what's going on so that we can really focus what can help you. And the bottom line for a lot of this is rest,
Yeah.
right, Gary?
Yeah. And yeah, me. Yeah. What's rest? I've heard of that term. Yeah, I'm okay,
You
I'm a
know,
workaholic. I admit that. Hi, my name's Gary and I'm a workaholic. Yeah, so no, I get that. That totally makes sense. And it's not a one size fits all for any of this sort of stuff because everybody's different. It's like you and I had a conversation probably a year ago about the gut biome and how everybody's gut biome is different, but it affects everything. And until you start peeling back this onion of the body, and it's amazing. It's amazing how one thing affects another. When I got diabetes, what was it, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, something to that, maybe just 4 years now. And I had no idea, the ramifications of getting diabetes, and how this cascade effect of things, how the body, the pancreas, and all that stuff works. So it was a real education to me. And for those who've had diabetes prior to me getting it, I went, "Oh, you got diabetes? Oh, that's too bad." Never really thought what these people were going through until I got it, and then it's like, oh my gosh, the stuff I have to do to manage my diabetes, the exercise, the food, all of the different things. Linda's got me on. Well, I've got a pharmacy down in a cupboard downstairs there, and but that's
it's not.
okay. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good, and that's okay. I'm happy with that.
Yes, getting you real rebalanced is the whole issue. And it's funny because, unfortunately, if we had done a lot of the things that we now are forced to do earlier, made time for it, understood how important it was, back then, maybe we could have averted some of the consequences of our misbehaving. Um, and we're busy people, and we like to enjoy our lives, and we
Yeah.
don't think of it as being part of our day-to-day living. But um, Yeah, until it becomes an issue, sometimes we don't act.
Well, and I think, when you go back in time in history, the healers, or the whatever you want to call them, were part of the community, not in the sense, well, oh, there was emergency, somebody fell, broke an arm, you deal with that sort of stuff, but it was a lot of preventative. A friend of mine who was raised in China, he was telling me that every family, it was handed down, all of the herbology and all the stuff was handed down from family to family, and one of the children in there would take up that practice, or even a couple of them would take up that practice. And he was telling me how, his mom, every time she'd see him, oh, okay, and she was checking him out, oh, you need some of this, and it was everything was preventative. Like, it was just part of their lifestyle, was this preventative medicine, and there was always somebody in the family that you were there that knew about this and was taught and trained, and it was just an interesting dynamics. We don't have that now, so we migrate to the Western medicine, and put all of our trust in there, and we need modern medicine, no question, but there's a balance that needs to happen here for something like Never Well Since, where I know from experience, from the doctors I've dealt with my own issues, and with my wife's issues, she's got lupus, the ball gets dropped. It's like, here, try this medicine. Oh, that didn't work. Try this medicine. And there's no, I guess, the diagnostics part of it just not there, and they're winging it. That's my perspective only. This is just coming from me. How would you comment on something like that?
Yeah, it's just extending the comprehension of the problem. So expanding more than beyond just I keep getting chills.
Yeah.
I keep getting this inflammation in my joints if it's lupus, or whatever it might be. Is having a more extended understanding of what actually happened. Chinese medicine refers to different emotions, to different parts of the body. So, if it's a unresolved grief, what did the family do? You were talking about traditional medicine. What did the family do as a ritual and a ceremony to get through a grief? Or how did they deal with this change of seasons? So, change of seasons right now, we're getting ready to go from fall into winter soon. So, is there a soup we should all be eating to help us lighten our digestion, clear our systems? It could be a detox, something of that nature to help us transition.
Right.
So that's what you were referring to about people needing to have a more comprehensive look at what's actually happening with their health and their family, rather than it being just focused on the immediate. This is what's happening. Let's fix it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what kind of we're at the top of the hour, and for those whoever has any questions for Linda, please post them now. But Linda, what couple of things would you recommend other than having a visit with you, and getting an assessment done of kind of where you're at, because it's like anything else. I'm a business consultant. Um, and I can't do my work unless I do an assessment, figure out what do these people need, and maybe they don't even know what they need, and I have to drill down and figure that out. But barring somebody coming in and having a proper assessment done with you to find out, well, where is their health score at? Where are they at? What tips would you give for somebody who's dealing with maybe some sort of, and again, this is a kind of a hard question maybe to answer because everybody's different on Never Well Since. What would you say to those who have some sort of never well since? Whether it's
Yeah.
emotional never well since, or, I had this injury and I've never been well since, or I've got this illness and I've never been well since. What would you say to them?
I think awareness, first off, is that you have this never well since problem. A lot of
Mm.
people don't realize that that is even existed. So cluing into that, this has sort of been something that happened at this point in time, whether it was a prescription drug, a surgery, a trauma, emotional or physical trauma. It's just first noticing that, and then things that trigger it. What
Right.
other things seem to be triggering a recurring symptom? That's
Right.
a really great place for people to start to self-assess,
Okay.
because I'm all for people becoming aware of their own bodies and becoming more sensitive to noticing.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Then that
Eh,
helps me when they come in. This is what I've noticed, Linda.
right. Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I
then,
think the more details of them, um, I don't know about most of the people out there listening, but you go into the doctors and you think, oh yeah, I'm going to ask this and I ask that, and you get out of there and it's like, oh crap, I forgot to mention that I had this problem, and I have had these headaches for about a week, and I've had
oh,
and we
and
always
only
forget this
one
stuff.
problem. You're only allowed to talk about one problem,
No, I know, which is which is
which
ludicrous.
none of these other things are connected, which I can never understand how somebody could feel satisfied that they helped a person, because
Well, and as you're getting older, like me, there you don't have just one issue. Like
no, that's exactly right.
there's always some. It's like you wake up in the morning and go, "What the heck is going on here?" I've woken up where I've had a little red splotch here. Next day it's gone, but okay, why did that show up? Like all these just little weird things as you're getting older. For you younger people, hang on to your youth. Hang on to your youth. It flies quickly gone.
Gary, you're doing fine.
Well, we're out of time. Any questions? Please post. If you want to just put a comment on the stream, that's fine. You don't have to ask a question. Put a comment. We'll look at the comments, and Linda can answer them offline. If I know some people like myself, I mean, I'm pretty open. I don't mind talking about my health. Some people are a little more private, and that's just perfectly fine. So for those of you who are a little more apprehensive in putting that out there, not a problem. Just put a comment in there. It's that the only people who will see it would be Linda and myself. And other than that, hey, Linda, thanks so much for sharing your wisdom today, and kind of talking about this. I know you and I probably could have talked about this for a couple of hours easily on this one subject, but we want to be cognizant of people's time. They want to go out shopping, throw the umbrella up, and it's not windy today, so you don't have to worry about that getting blown away.
Oh, and we're also open to hearing about things that they might want us to discuss. Um,
Yeah.
so if there's any particular topic, we might end up doing a little bit of a series on things to do to have more energy, or things to do when you want to lose some little few extra pounds that we've all accumulated. The COVID-19 pounds is a common story I'm hearing. So there's lots more we can discuss. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, thank you, Linda, and thanks for everybody for showing up. We've got some thumbs up here. Appreciate you guys being here today. Hopefully this has been beneficial to you. Hopefully this has been helpful as we develop this program. I mean, this is our second one, so we're still have the training wheels on. We're still trying to get our bearings. But
Yeah.
once we kind of get things a little bit more streamlined stuff, we're gonna kind of do some deep dive into things. We've been on the surface of things, but we'll do some deep dive. So if you've got some things that you're concerned about, things that you're worried about, put them in the comments, and we will look at those as things to maybe discuss, and hopefully bring some knowledge and some wisdom to you from Linda. So thanks everyone for your time. Appreciate it. Have yourself the great rest of the weekend. Well, Linda, keep safe and keep dry if you're going out as well.
Take care.
All right. Bye for now, everyone. Have a good one.